Hey guys, happy December. It has been far too long since I've updated my tank and system, so I thought today would be a perfect time for it. Today we're going to primarily focus on what's going on downstairs, and then maybe next week or so I'll shoot a video with the upstairs tank. But for now, let's start with the 420, which is up and running, and I actually just moved my shop vac into the shot here. Just so that you could get a frame of reference, because I think it's really hard to judge, just like in pictures and video, just how big this tank is. It is 8 feet long, 96 inches long, 30 inches deep, and 34 inches tall. And I don't love the height of it necessarily. If I had my way, you know, maybe a 30-inch tank or a 24-inch tall tank. But it was used, and these were the dimensions that it had. So that's it, you know, that's the tanks. I have moved from upstairs my Blonde Naso tang and my Desjardins Sailfin tang, as well as from my Frag tank, my Yellow Mimic tang, and there is a juvenile Sohal tang that I picked up on sale from Live Aquaria. It's the first time I've ever ordered a fish online, and the service with Live Aquaria was fantastic. And what else is in there? Magnificent Fox Face and a juvenile Emperor Angel, none of which seem to want to come out right now because they're all freaked out that I'm standing here with the camera. I did just throw some food in the tank. There has been 0 issues with the tank so far. You know, I was a little nervous about leaking. It was a used tank when I picked it up. But so far, so good. No problems there. The fish are all doing really well. They seem to really enjoy the space that they have. And I have really run into no issues. I mean, from when I originally plumbed it, I had a couple of little things I had to kind of fix up. I replaced a few pieces of plumbing and how I had done things initially after some, you know, thinking about how it worked in actuality, but and I'll show you guys that in a second, but really the tank has been smooth. The transition, adding the 420 to my current system, no issues. A couple things I've added to the tank. I picked up a used Max Spec Gyre XF250, the newer model, with the advanced controller, and I've got it on like a pulse for now. I might at some point, if I get coral down here, add another one to the other end. For now, it is plenty of flow for a fish-only tank. So it gets the water moving great. I did throw a heater in there. The only issue I've really run into has been keeping all of this water warm. You know, there's 400 gallons down here, plus, you know, 200 gallons upstairs, plus all of the sumps and frag tanks in a sort of chilly basement. I had to add 2 more 800-watt heaters, which led to some electrical issues that I'll talk about in a second when we get into the frag tank area. But this is the tank. This is the aquascape for now. I'm generally happy with it. I might throw in some branch rock at some point just to add a little bit of dimension to it, but it's sort of just a 2-island with some caves, the fish swim in and out of them. I'm actually standing right now. It might be very hard to see. I am standing in my workout area. And what I've done is I just sort of work out in the morning and face the tank and just get to watch it while I'm working out, which has been great. You know, it makes the workouts go really quick, and I get up really early in the morning. I teach high school, so I get up about 4:45 and work out in the morning, and I get to do so watching this tank now, which is great. Because it's in the basement, so I don't spend a ton of time down here with it, so that's been cool. So just giving you sort of a side shot of the tank. I'll walk down to the other end. I mean, and it takes, you know, 7 steps to get down there because it is so, I mean, it's an 8-foot tank. It is huge. It's 420 gallons. There's the gyre, the backside of the gyre, all of the plumbing, and I'll show you what goes on with that. I drilled a hole through the back of the tank, which was not easy. It's 3/4 inch glass, and plumbed in a bulkhead with a valve that runs over and down into the sump crock, which I'll clean up that plumbing at some point when the basement's finished. So if I needed to drain the tank, I can drain it 3/4 of the way down just by opening a valve and sending all that salt water outside without sending it into my septic system, which I try to avoid putting too much salt water down the drain into the septic. I've had some grass die off in the front yard from that before, and I don't want to do that. So most of my water change water goes down and out the back of the house into where the sump discharges. There's the little Sohal just came out, and now she's hiding again because everyone wants to be shy now that the camera's out. Quick shot of the stand. I made the stand 12 inches wider than the tank, so the tank is 30 inches wide, the stand is 40 inches wide, so I have a place to walk, and it's hard to see, but I put some rubber on here so that I don't slip, or if it gets wet I can just wipe it off. And I just glue that down on there. I use this little step stool. My favorite part of the tank, and I'll turn off, here's some of the controls for this tank. My favorite thing about this tank is looking down on it. So I just turned off the gyre. I'll get this out of the way. And I'm standing up on the platform, and the view is awesome. So I'll just come down here and hang out, look down on the fish, see what's going on. The view from up here is awesome. The drain is super quiet. With everything else that's going on down here with the sump, you can almost not hear a thing, and there is a ton of water coming out of these returns. I don't have like the FMM telling me exactly how much, but it's a lot. So this is my so far my favorite part of the tank is this view here. So I'll just turn the gyre back on. There it goes. And I'll step down without killing myself. Here's the back side of the tank, the drains. It's Herbie. It's really, I just sort of set it and forget it. It's been fine. The back view of the stand, I use it just for storage and stuff. And the plumbing, let's see if we can get a better view of this with a little bit more light. The two drains have the valves on them. The gate valve is the full siphon, and then everything has unions on it so I can take it apart if I need to. And the whole return manifold has unions on it, so I can take that apart if I need to. And both sides of the return have ball valves on it, so I can direct which way the flow comes. If it's, it wants to go out the right side more because it's path of least resistance. So I just send a little bit more water that way. And then the palming flows around and out here. So these two pipes are the drains for the 420. I had to replace the 40-gallon breeder that was acting as the sump down here. It was just not enough space and not enough volume for the draining in the event of a power outage. And because I had to add more heaters, I was having a lot of power outages. So I was simultaneously dealing with a heater issue and a power outage issue and an overflowing the sump issue all at once. And I solved that by using this 75-gallon tank, which I picked up locally. And it had already had some holes drilled in it, which made it easy. I just had to drill some more holes. And now there's no issue. So the water now drains. Everything drains into here in the event of a power outage. It still fills up pretty high. You can see the blue tape on the left there. But it does not overflow, no longer. And then the return pump, Hammerhead, Barracuda Hammerhead hybrid with the bigger impeller. It's teed off there. The 1-inch tee there goes off to the 420. And actually, I started feeding the Frack tank from this too because the Frack tank was getting too cold. It wasn't getting enough hot water into it from the old drain. So now there's just a trickle of water coming out of there and a more flow of warm water coming out of there. So it just gets a little bit more flow from that. And Frack tank's doing really well. Obviously the lights are off. It's the middle of the day. It's like 3 o'clock in the afternoon right now. And the Frack tank comes on at night. It's on a reverse cycle just to help with pH. Everything else is doing well. Just that. For whatever reason, my Apex head unit, or my screen, stopped working randomly, and I don't know if it had something to do with the power outage issues. Luckily, I just use this tablet most of the time as my Apex homepage. The Refugium is cranking along. I just vacuumed it today, so it's much cleaner than it normally is. I did like a 20-gallon water change. Sort of mixed this up, cleaned it up, vacuumed it up, etc. There we go. So the other major change down here is the wiring is way more cleaned up than it was. I had a new electric panel installed by my electrician months ago, and in doing so he ran a couple of new lines on GFCI breakers for the basement finish when we do finish the basement. So I ran one of those 20 amp circuits over here, and it's all on a GFCI breaker and a GFCI on the outlet, and so everything's cleaned up. The problem is I couldn't run all of those 800 watt heaters off of one 20 amp circuit plus the return pump. It was tripping. So I actually ran a second one of the 20 amp circuits up here. And now I've got one of the 800 watt heaters plus a few other small things plugged into a separate circuit just to try and spread the load a little bit, because I was dealing with. And then and when I show you guys upstairs in the next video, when I plugged in the Christmas tree, then of course it tripped the circuit too, because I had one of the 800 watt heaters plugged into the same circuit. It was just kind of a pain. It is no longer an issue. It's been cleaned up and whatever. So wiring's done. 420 is doing well. There's the little Sohal hiding, coming out. But 420 is doing well. Oh, there's the angelfish too. Came out to play. Probably looking for food. And the majestic foxface. The magnificent foxface, excuse me. So now everybody's out. There's 6 fish in there total. There's everybody. There's the crew. They usually are out swimming together. Everyone seems to get along really well. There haven't really been any issues. The Desjardins was a little bit of a grump when I first moved him down. Probably because he didn't want... It was a pain getting him out of the upstairs tank. Had to move a bunch of rock, had to move a bunch of things out of there. But generally, that's... I mean, obviously there's a lot has changed, but it's been over a period of time. But aside from the electricity issue, which has been solved, the 420 adding the 420 to the system has been seamless. There's been no issues whatsoever. It was really the electrical issue and getting the bigger sump. Once I did those two things, there's been no problems. The fish have been happy. Tank's been super stable. I'm doing a small water change every week, more out of habit than anything. And I'm going to send in my water to Triton for the ICP testing. I watched the bulk reef supply video, and I'm really interested in the idea of Triton testing and the Triton method, and they mentioned it in the bulk reef supply video. You really have to ask yourself, what is the reason we're doing water changes? Is it for nutrient reduction? Well, I don't need that. My phosphates are near zero and my nitrates are near zero just from the refugium. Is it for trace element replacement? Well, are there more efficient ways to do that too? And so that's an interesting thing that I've been thinking about. Going forward, that's really something I'm going to look at. So I'm going to pick up some... bulk reef supply had sold out during Black Friday. So it's definitely something I'm interested in looking at down the road, for sure. And I'll keep you guys updated on that. One last thing, and I know this video is going long, is the lighting for this tank was super easy. I took my 60-inch Reef Bright Tech fixture. Actually, it's a 72-inch Reef Bright Tech fixture, and two cheap Home Depot, I think they're 5500K LED flood lamps. The Reef Bright comes on first, then the LEDs come on, and it gives the tank, I don't know how it's showing up on camera, it gives the tank a real nice, like, 1400K look, a really nice look, a nice subtle shimmer. You can probably pick up a little bit of the shimmer on camera. And until there's any coral in the tank, my attitude is, why spend extra money on lighting? I can always figure that out down the road. So I'm gonna roll with this for now, and that's the big update. So feel free to comment with questions, and talk to you guys soon.